The greatest treasure ever gathered in the history of the galaxy rested inside the Imperial Hall. Mountains of rare crystals glowed with enough energy to power entire star systems. Ancient relics from civilizations long erased by time-filled endless chambers. Crowns taken from defeated emperors, weapons forged before recorded history, and vaults overflowing with wealth beyond imagination waited for a single command. Every ruler, merchant, and warlord believed the alien Empress would claim it all. Instead, she looked away. Silence swept across the throne chamber. Thousands of alien nobles exchanged confused glances. Fleet admirals lowered their heads. Ambassadors from hundreds of worlds stared in disbelief. No one had ever rejected the galaxy's greatest treasure. It was more than wealth. It was the ultimate symbol of power. The Empress slowly rose from her throne. Her silver armor reflected the pale light of the crystal ceiling, while banners from conquered empires hung motionless around her. Every eye followed her as she stepped toward the center of the chamber. The royal guards expected her to choose a relic worthy of her endless victories. The council prepared to record the moment for history. She spoke only 7 quiet words. "I want the human who saved me." The room froze. Some believed they had misheard, others thought it was a joke. The oldest members of the council looked genuinely afraid. Among every intelligent species in the galaxy, humans carried a strange reputation. They came from a world classified as a death world, a place where crushing gravity, violent storms, deadly oceans, poisonous creatures, and constant natural disasters somehow failed to destroy its people. Most civilizations considered Earth impossible for advanced life. Yet humans had not only survived. They had become explorers, engineers, soldiers, and protectors whose stubborn determination often ignored logic itself. Alien scholars spent centuries trying to understand them. Human warriors kept fighting after suffering wounds that would kill almost any other species. Human rescuers entered collapsing stations while everyone else fled. Human colonies rebuilt after disasters that erased entire cities overnight. Whenever survival became impossible, humanity treated it as another challenge. That was why many respected them. It was also why many feared them. The Empress closed her eyes for a brief moment. Her thoughts returned to the battlefield above the burning moon of Kairos. Millions had witnessed the disaster. Her flagship had been torn apart during the final assault. Escape pods failed. Her guards died buying seconds that changed nothing. Every scanner declared her lost. Except one. A lone human rescue craft had ignored direct military orders and flown straight into the expanding firestorm. No one understood why. The pilot had no chance of surviving. Every calculation predicted certain death. Yet the impossible happened. Against every law of probability, the human reached her, carried her from the collapsing wreckage, and disappeared before anyone even learned the rescuer's identity. Now standing before the wealth of an entire galaxy, the Empress desired nothing except that one unknown human. The council demanded answers. The admirals demanded proof. The rival empires demanded she reconsider. The Empress refused them all. Then the massive doors of the Imperial Hall began to open. A single human stepped inside. No medals, no royal escort, no expression of fear. And the entire galaxy suddenly realized the greatest treasure in existence had never been locked inside the vault at all. The human walked across the polished floor without slowing down. Hundreds of eyes followed every step. The nobles expected arrogance, fear, or at least confusion after entering the most heavily guarded palace in the known galaxy. Instead, the visitor simply observed the enormous chamber with quiet curiosity. The priceless treasures lining the walls earned only a brief glance before attention returned to the Empress. Whispers spread through the crowd. "That is the rescuer? He looks ordinary. No Death World survivor should appear that calm." The oldest council member activated a floating display. A holographic image of Earth appeared above the chamber. Mountains reached into violent storm clouds. Oceans covered most of the planet while hurricanes twisted across entire continents. Massive predators, toxic forests, deserts hotter than industrial furnaces, frozen wastelands, earthquakes, volcanoes, and crushing gravity filled the display, one image after another. Our archives remain unchanged. the elder announced. Planet designation remains Death World 7. Native life demonstrates extreme resilience. Human civilization evolved despite conditions considered impossible by every known biological model. Another council member spoke. They call those conditions home. Several alien ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. Many had visited Earth exactly once. That single visit had been enough. One diplomat still remembered collapsing after only a few minutes under Earth's gravity. Another had required medical treatment after breathing air that humans considered perfectly fresh. A third admitted that even harmless Earth insects looked like battlefield horrors compared to creatures on peaceful worlds. Humans laughed about those stories. To them, Earth was beautiful. To everyone else, it was terrifying. The human finally stopped several meters from the throne. No weapon scanners detected anything dangerous. No hidden technology appeared beneath the simple expedition jacket. There were no medals, no ceremonial armor, and no signs of royal status. Only countless tiny scars covered weathered hands that had clearly spent years repairing machines, climbing damaged hulls, and surviving dangerous places. The Empress stepped down the final stair herself. Gasps echoed through the chamber. An imperial ruler never approached another being first. Protocol demanded the opposite. She ignored centuries of tradition. "You came," she said quietly. "You asked." "I was not certain you would answer," the human gave a small smile. "You once crossed a battlefield for your people." Traveling across a few star systems seemed fair. The words confused nearly everyone listening. The Empress had crossed the battlefield because retreat meant abandoning thousands of civilians trapped beneath orbital bombardment. Every military academy studied that campaign. Very few knew someone had followed her. One fleet commander suddenly remembered the classified rescue report. "The shuttle," he whispered. "It was civilian," another officer replied. "No escort, no shields, no weapons," the commander nodded. The pilot flew straight through debris, moving faster than railgun rounds. Even now, experienced admirals struggled to explain the rescue. The odds of surviving had been measured at less than one chance in several billion. Humans simply called it the right thing to do. The Empress looked directly into the human's eyes. "You never told me why." The chamber became completely silent. "Why risk everything for someone you had never met?" The answer came without hesitation. Because leaving someone behind was never an option. No speech followed, no dramatic explanation. Just a simple truth spoken as naturally as breathing. Many aliens found the answer impossible to understand. Their civilizations calculated survival with perfect logic. Every rescue mission had acceptable losses. Every battle required mathematical sacrifice. Every decision balanced probability against value. Humans often ignored those calculations. Sometimes they paid a terrible price. Sometimes they changed history. The council members exchanged uneasy looks. They had spent decades studying humanity, yet moments like this always challenged their understanding. Before anyone could speak again, alarms suddenly echoed through the Imperial Hall. The calm blue lights turned crimson. Emergency symbols flashed across every holographic display. A frightened communications officer rushed through the massive doors. "Your Majesty," the officer shouted. "Long-range observatories have confirmed it. The void swarm has crossed the outer frontier." Every voice disappeared. Even the Empress's expression changed. Across the galaxy, ancient legends spoke of civilizations erased without warning by an enemy that consumed entire star systems. Most believed those stories were myths. The human looked toward the crimson warning lights, then quietly asked the question that made every admiral's blood run cold. "How long before they reach Earth?" No one in the Imperial Hall moved after the human spoke. The question lingered in the air. How long before they reach Earth? Several admirals looked at one another with growing concern. Most expected the human to ask how many fleets remained, how powerful the enemy was, or whether the imperial capital could still be defended. Instead, the first concern was a distant death world. The communications officer swallowed hard before answering. "Our latest calculations estimate 18 standard days." The chamber erupted with anxious voices. 18 days is impossible. The frontier should have delayed them for months. They are moving. Faster than every prediction, the Empress raised one hand and silence returned. A massive star map expanded across the center of the hall. Hundreds of glowing systems stretched across known space. Entire sectors near the frontier had already gone dark. Every missing light represented a colony, a research station, or a fleet that had stopped responding. No distress calls, no survivors. Only silence. The humans studied the map carefully. "You've never fought them directly," the chief strategist answered with visible frustration. "No. Every force we send disappears. No wreckage? None? No captured signals? Nothing." The human nodded slowly. "Then you don't know your enemy." The words unsettled the council. For generations, the Galactic Empire had believed information was its greatest weapon. It maintained observatories around thousands of worlds and possessed records dating back millions of years. Yet, against the Void Swarm, all that knowledge meant almost nothing. Across the chamber, several foreign ambassadors quietly watched the exchange. One came from a peaceful ocean world where storms rarely exceeded gentle rain. Another represented a civilization that had never experienced natural predators. A third belonged to a species that evolved beneath stable skies without earthquakes, floods, or dangerous seasons. To them, humanity remained a mystery. Their reports always reached the same conclusion. Humans accepted danger as a normal part of life. One ambassador remembered visiting Earth during what humans called an ordinary winter. Flights had been canceled. Snow buried entire towns. Temperatures dropped far below anything survivable for most species. Yet children laughed while building strange frozen sculptures. Workers cleared roads. Emergency crews continued operating. Restaurants stayed open. Humans complained about the weather while continuing their daily routines. The ambassador had written only one sentence in the official report. If this is considered normal, their definition of disaster must be unimaginable. Another observer recalled standing beside an active volcano under careful supervision. Human scientists calmly collected rock samples while rivers of molten stone flowed nearby. They called it fieldwork. To almost every other civilization, it looked like madness. Back inside the Imperial Hall, the fleet commanders continued debating possible defenses. "We should fortify the core worlds. We must protect the treasure vaults. The royal archives cannot be abandoned." The human remained silent until the arguments became louder. Finally, one simple question cut through the noise. How many civilians live along the invasion route? The commanders hesitated. Military planning focused on ships, supply lines, and strategic positions. Population numbers had become secondary. The silence answered everything. The Empress noticed it as well. For the first time since the emergency began, disappointment crossed her face. The human looked once more at the star map. Every fading light represented families who probably believed help was coming. Every dark system meant someone had waited too long. A memory surfaced. The burning moon. The collapsing flagship. A decision that every tactical computer declared impossible. Sometimes saving one life changed the future. Sometimes saving millions required making the same impossible choice again. At that moment, hidden deep beneath the palace, ancient sensors that had remained inactive for thousands of years suddenly awakened. The machines were older than the empire itself, older than most known civilizations. One forgotten monitor locked onto a single biological signature standing inside the throne room, not the Empress. Not a member of the council, the human. An automated message appeared across a sealed display that no living official had ever seen. Death World Guardian detected. Authorization level recognized. Ancient Protocol 7 initiating. Far below the palace, something enormous began to wake. The deep rumble beneath the imperial palace grew stronger. At first, only the Empress noticed the faint vibration beneath her feet. Moments later, ancient pillars carved long before the empire itself began to glow with pale blue symbols. Dust drifted from the towering ceiling as forgotten machinery awakened somewhere beneath the capital. Confused officers searched their displays. No seismic activity, no reactor failure, no attack detected. The palace itself was responding to something. The human looked toward the marble floor, feeling the vibration become a steady pulse. It reminded him of standing near Earth's largest fusion plants where massive generators shook the ground with controlled power. Only this felt older. Much older? An elderly historian suddenly rushed forward, ignoring every rule of court etiquette. His hands trembled as he stared at the glowing symbols. "I know these markings." The council turned toward him. "They belong to the first builders." Several officials frowned. "The first builders are only legends." "So we believed," the historian replied. "Their cities vanished before recorded history. Every civilization searched for proof. We found only scattered ruins that could never be activated." His eyes slowly settled on the human. Until today, across the throne room, the ancient symbols brightened again. One after another, hidden machines buried beneath the palace recognized the same biological signature. The human remained completely still. "I've never been here before." The historian nodded. "I believe you. Then why is this happening?" "No one knows." Outside the palace, the capital city continued its normal rhythm, but emergency broadcasts spread across every district. Civilian transports lifted into the sky. Defense fleets launched from orbital shipyards. Merchant vessels abandoned trade routes to escort refugees fleeing the frontier. Across hundreds of worlds, fear moved faster than light. The Void Swarm had never negotiated. It had never demanded surrender. It simply advanced. On Earth, the first warning reached the United Planetary Council. The message was brief. Unknown hostile force approaching. Estimated arrival, 18 days. There was no panic. Factories increased production. Research stations transmitted every available discovery. Mining colonies redirected resources toward orbital construction. Hospitals reviewed emergency plans. Civilian volunteers lined up outside recruitment centers before any official request had been made. To many alien observers, the reaction seemed strangely calm. One ambassador stationed on Earth watched workers finishing a bridge while evacuation notices appeared on nearby screens. "They know an unknown enemy is coming," the ambassador said. His human guide shrugged. "The bridge still needs finishing, but it may never be used. Maybe. Then why continue?" The guide smiled. "Because someone might need it." The ambassador quietly recorded another report. Human priorities continued to defy logical prediction. Back inside the Imperial Palace, another emergency transmission interrupted the silence. The frontier had fallen again. 3 more defense fleets had vanished. No distress signal, no battle recordings. Only empty space where thousands of ships had once defended the galaxy. Even veteran admirals struggled to hide their fear. The Empress studied the human carefully. "You are not frightened," the answer came honestly. "I am." Several officers looked surprised. "You don't seem afraid?" The human gave a tired smile. "Being afraid isn't the same as giving up." The simple statement spread through the chamber like a wave. Many alien species believed courage meant feeling no fear at all. Humans understood it differently. Fear was expected. Action mattered more. The Empress finally understood why one unarmed rescue pilot had crossed an impossible battlefield years earlier. It had never been about bravery. It had been about refusing to leave someone behind. Suddenly, the palace floor separated with a deep mechanical sound. A circular platform slowly rose from beneath the throne room. Its surface carried symbols older than every known civilization. In its center rested a crystal sphere that pulsed with soft blue light. As the platform reached the floor, the sphere projected a star map unlike any recorded in Imperial history. Entire galaxies appeared. Ancient travel routes stretched across impossible distances. Then a single line of glowing text formed above the map, awaiting Guardian confirmation. Human origin verified. Every alien in the chamber stared at the message in stunned silence. The human stepped closer without speaking. Before anyone could stop him, the crystal sphere recognized his presence. A warm light spread through the throne room. Then an ancient voice echoed across the palace for the first time in countless ages. "At last, the Guardians have returned," and every civilization present suddenly realized humanity's place in the galaxy had never been what anyone believed. The ancient voice echoed through every chamber of the Imperial Palace. Guardian confirmation complete. The glowing star map shifted again. This time it showed the advancing void swarm. Thousands of dark signals moved across the frontier like an endless tide. Then another layer appeared beneath them. Hidden across the galaxy were countless silent structures, all carrying the same symbols that covered the palace floor. The historian could barely breathe. "There are more," the ancient voice answered. "Guardian Network. Dormant until humanity achieved independent interstellar civilization." Every official in the chamber stood frozen. The human looked at the crystal sphere. Why humanity? The answer came without emotion. Because only a species forged by a true death world possessed the adaptability, resilience, and compassion required to inherit the network. Images filled the air. Long before the current civilizations existed, the first builders had explored the galaxy. They discovered that every advanced species eventually faced the same enemy. The void swarm did not conquer worlds, it erased them. No empire had survived alone. The builders searched for a successor capable of protecting life without seeking domination. They found Earth, not because humans were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, because they never stopped helping each other even when survival itself was uncertain. The crystal showed humans rescuing strangers during floods, rebuilding cities after earthquakes, exploring frozen wilderness, crossing dangerous oceans, and risking their own lives to save people they had never met. The Empress smiled softly. "The battlefield," the human nodded. "I did what anyone should do." The council looked at one another. For the first time they understood. Most civilizations had judged humanity by its dangerous homeworld. They should have judged humanity by the people that world created. Outside the palace, every hidden guardian station awakened. Ancient satellites emerged from forgotten moons. Massive defense platforms rose from beneath abandoned planets. Light spread across thousands of star systems as the old network came alive. The void swarm reached the first guardian beacon. Instead of finding helpless colonies, it encountered defenses built by a civilization older than history itself. Now guided by human hands and supported by every willing species in the galaxy, the battle lasted for days. No world stood alone. Human engineers repaired damaged stations beside alien technicians. Imperial fleets defended refugee convoys regardless of species. Scientists shared every discovery without demanding payment or territory. Rescue ships crossed dangerous space again and again because someone always needed help. The victory did not belong to one empire. It belonged to everyone who chose to stand together. When the final swarm signal disappeared beyond the frontier, celebrations spread from Earth to the imperial capital. Bells rang on peaceful worlds. Starships sounded their horns. Families welcomed loved ones home. The Empress returned to the great treasure hall one final time. The priceless vaults remained untouched. She looked toward the human standing beside the entrance. "I was offered the greatest treasure in the galaxy," she smiled. They never understood what that treasure truly was. The human laughed quietly. "I still think you're giving me too much credit." "No," she replied. "I finally understand. The greatest strength in this galaxy was never hidden inside these vaults. It grew on a death world where impossible challenges created people who refused to abandon hope." Years later, children across hundreds of civilizations studied the story of the unknown human who flew into certain danger to save a stranger. They learned that courage was not the absence of fear. It was choosing to help when fear said to run. Earth remained a death world. Humans remained stubborn, determined, and endlessly curious. The galaxy no longer feared those qualities. It depended on them. And whenever new explorers looked toward the stars, they remembered the lesson that united every civilization. The greatest treasure in the universe was never power, wealth, or ancient technology. It was the heart of humanity. The end.